Welcome to Real Estate Pro Tips. The topic is what you need to know about home insurance. I'm Pete Sabine.
And I'm Leslie Whitney. We are realtors here in the San Francisco East Bay area.
We are here today with Ali Lopez. Ali is a senior sales associate with Pro Insurance Solutions.
We're going to cover the basics of home insurance so you will be well informed when you have a need to purchase insurance coverage.
Ali, is home insurance required by law?
No, it's not illegal to not carry homeowners insurance.
Why is home insurance needed?
So essentially your home is one of your biggest assets and you want to make sure that it's protected. But if you do have a loan on the home, then it will be required.
So how do you decide how much coverage is needed?
So our agency has a dollar per square foot recommendation. We don't recommend that people insure their homes for less than $350 a square foot in California, but each company or carrier has a replacement cost estimator that helps determine.
So if I'm buying a home, does the amount of the coverage need to cover the amount of the home loan?
So that's a really common question, and more often than not, the replacement cost is going to be less than the purchase price because the purchase price is going to take into consideration the value of the land.
So if you don't own a home, can you buy renter's insurance?
Absolutely. Most landlords will require renter's insurance, but it's just a good idea to have even if they don't. So if you have friends over and they hurt themselves, then you're covered for liability as well as all of your contents.
And theft insurance, is that part of it?
Yes.
Okay.
Are all home policies basically the same?
No. In fact, we created a presentation that read, not all insurance is created equal. So no, there are different packages and different levels of coverage that you can get. So
what's the most standard policy coverage available?
The most standard policy is just a basic homeowners for replacement cost of $750,000 and under.
All right, and tell us about the basic coverage available for events that cause property damage, such as fire, wind, and theft.
So fire, wind, and theft are all included in a basic homeowner's policy. They're considered covered perils. A claims adjuster would really be the one to determine how it would apply and how much of a payout you would receive.
What are the additional coverage items in a typical policy?
So a typical policy also includes other structures, which isn't talked about a lot. And other structures coverage is anything on the property that's not directly attached to your home, as well as loss of use. And that is a coverage that, let's say your home does burn down, you need to temporarily live somewhere, so it covers those expenses.
Would that include like an in-law cottage that's not attached?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
What are the differences between an actual cash value and replacement cost policy?
So a replacement cost policy isn't available in California anymore. Now we have extended replacement cost. An extended replacement cost is an added coverage on top of your dwelling. So for example, if you have a base dwelling of $1 million, and you carry extended replacement costs of 150%, then that's an additional $500,000 on top to make sure that you are able to rebuild the home.
At today's costs?
At today's costs, correct.
And then the actual cash value is current market value minus depreciation, right?
Correct, yes.
So you might not get as much as you think if you've got an actual cash value, right? Because of that.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
So is it worth the additional premium cost for a replacement cost policy to ensure your home can be restored with only your deductible as the payout?
So as mentioned, extended replacement cost is really what would apply for homeowners. Extended replacement costs can vary from 110%, 120%, 125, 150, and 200%. So if you have the option to do 200% extended replacement cost, then I definitely recommend that you pay the extra amount for it.
Are home repairs covered at replacement cost?
Yes. So with having everything, you are essentially made whole again. That's the idea of having the insurance policy.
So is personal property such as your furniture, appliances, clothing, etc., replaced at actual cash value?
So most companies will replace replacement cost. However, you have the option to go back to actual cash value. So it's more recommended to do replacement costs, but more often than not, then we do see people who bring it down to actual cash value.
And that would save money on their insurance, right? Yeah.
Can you upgrade your policy to have your personal property insured at replacement value?
Yes. So if it's not already included, then you can upgrade it.
Do most policies place a limit for luxury items such as fine art and jewelry?
Yes, there are sublimits for jewelry, fine art, silverware, china, and they vary between $5,000 and $10,000 depending on the company.
Are you covered no matter how your home is damaged?
No, not if it's an intentional fire, but everything catastrophic or accidental. So if there's water damage, whether it's an appliance malfunction or whether water damage, you're covered. A tree falls on your home, fire, again, if it's wildfire or an accidental fire.
So going back to the fine art and jewelry question, so what happens if you have items like that that are worth $100,000? How do you add coverage for something that goes beyond the standard?
Sure. So if you have like a piece of jewelry that is worth more than the $5,000 sublimit, then we recommend that you place a personal articles policy, or they're called sometimes a personal articles rider, and that will give that individual piece of jewelry its own policy.
Okay. So is flood damage covered in a standard policy?
No, that's specifically excluded.
Okay.
What about other natural disasters, damage coverage from earthquakes?
Earthquakes in California are also specifically excluded.
So what are endorsements and how do you know if they're included in a policy?
So an endorsement is another word for just a change in a contract, specifically your insurance contract. And the DEC page, the declarations page, will have your basic coverages, and then under that you will have a list of endorsements. They're pretty clear on the paperwork, but if you ever have questions, your agent or broker should be able to point those out for you.
All right. Can identity theft coverage be added to your policy with an endorsement?
So right now we're seeing carriers just automatically include identity theft, but it is something, if it doesn't already have it, you can add it via endorsement.
Am I fully covered if someone is injured in my home?
So it depends on your liability limit. So if someone were to fall and hurt themselves on your property, if their medical costs exceed your liability limit, then you have some exposure there, but you should be covered.
Where do you find the maximum amount the insurance company will pay in legal bills and damages if you're sued?
So under personal liability, the limits vary from $100,000, $300,000, $500,000, and if you're lucky, the insurance company will offer $1 million in liability.
So what should we know about liability limits?
So liability limits, like mentioned, vary from $100,000 to $1 million. $1 million is the max that most homeowners policy will offer, and then on top of that, you can carry an umbrella policy.
What is an umbrella insurance policy?
So an umbrella insurance policy, if you think of an umbrella, it actually goes over your home and auto liability limits. So let's say if you're at fault for a multi-vehicle accident and the underlying liability limits on your auto are not sufficient to pay out for injuries, or if there's a death, then your umbrella would kick in over that to protect your assets if you're sued.
So $1 million in coverage really doesn't go very far in litigation anymore, does it?
Unfortunately not, but there are ways to add increased limits of umbrella.
So with an umbrella, then you'd have like a $2 million or $3 million liability coverage, and that would be in addition to the $1 million max on your homeowners, right?
Correct, yes.
Yeah, okay. So why don't you tell us more about why umbrella insurance policies are so beneficial to a person?
Sure. Umbrella liability is a great thing to carry because, especially for someone who has your home, your auto, young drivers in the household, secondary homes or rentals, if you're a landlord and you have a tenant, that in itself is a huge exposure. And adding umbrella liability to go over all of those items It really protects you in the event that your underlying limits are not enough. It's a very low cost in comparison to the limits. You can write up to, not just $1 million umbrella, but 5 million, 10 million. For the very high net worth, you have limits of $25, $50 million that
Wow.
you can add.
That's impressive. Yeah, so I have an umbrella policy. I think it's a $2 million limit, and I think I pay maybe $300 or $400 a year for that additional coverage above my homeowner policy.
Yeah, it's definitely a smaller premium for such high limits and that extra protection.
So what's usually excluded from a home insurance policy?
So in California, the biggest exclusions are earthquake, flood, and landslide. That's
Okay.
something that we've been asked a lot, especially after Santa Barbara.
Okay.
Because of the landslides in Santa Barbara?
Yeah.
Yeah. What's the easiest way to reduce your monthly premium?
The easiest way is bundling. So we hear all the time, bundle your home and auto with, all these different carriers. And the reason is because you're saving not just on the home, but also on the auto. And if you add the umbrella, there is also a small discount included as well.
So can you save money for an alarm system or being a non-smoker or retiree discounts, things of that nature?
Sure. There's all kinds of discounts with centrally monitored fire and burglar alarms. There's plenty of companies out there that you can choose from. Non-smoker credits are available, AARP credits are available, even alumni credits.
So will it cost less to insure a newer home compared to an older home?
It can, yes. There's definitely some upsides with insurance companies, seeing that you have your roof updated, electrical, plumbing, things of that nature. Insurance companies tend to want to stay away from an older home that hasn't been updated at all, that needs some work.
Okay.
So if you own an older home, will bringing the home up to current building codes or doing renovations can that help lower your premiums?
It will help. It'll give you more options, having everything updated, as well as eligibility. So, like I mentioned, insurance companies would prefer not to insure a home that's not been updated in the last 20 to 25 years.
So if you make substantial improvements or remodeling to your home, should you modify your insurance coverage?
Absolutely. If the value of your home is changing because of remodels, you definitely want to make sure that that's reflects on your homeowner's policy. If you do a full remodel and the square footage changes, then you want to make sure that that matches as well.
And what can you expect when you make a claim?
So the first step that I tell people is, if you're working with a broker and you want to run the scenario by them first, just to see if it's even worth making a claim, because sometimes it may not be, and then at the other end of it you may end up paying because you're being charged by that claim, or potentially being dropped by your carrier if you make too many claims. But after, if it does make sense, then you're assigned a claims adjuster, and your agent or broker are there to be your advocate to make sure that you're getting everything that you're entitled to.
So let's discuss insurability in California due to wildfires. What are some of the challenges and costs for homes located in a high fire risk or wildfire hazard zone?
So this has been a very hot topic for the last couple of years, and the challenges are definitely there. And what we're facing is, especially for new home buyers who are trying to obtain insurance, and let's say they've never purchased a home, and they don't know what the first steps are. Insurability is just getting tighter and tighter. The insurance companies across the board are not wanting to write new business in certain areas that are prone to wildfire. Not only is that a challenge, but then existing homeowners and their existing policies are being dropped by companies that are scaling back in the areas that they're insuring.
So it's my understanding that these wildfire areas are in areas that you might not think of as being exposed to risk. They could be in neighborhoods, like look at the Santa Rosa fire as an example. That came right through the middle of town. So are they not rezoning some of these subdivision areas that are in cities and towns to be included in these zones?
Yeah, I mean, underwriting guidelines have changed anywhere from 6 months to 12 months just to fit their appetite and their capacity. So even if the locations in the past historically have checked out fine, now they're concerned over oversaturation. So on one street, if one company insures 6 homes, the 7th they may not want to insure because now you're increasing their overall risk.
Wow.
What do you recommend for people who are in the process of buying a home to make sure coverage is available to them?
So my biggest recommendation is if you're looking to buy a home and you're not sure if it's in a high wildfire area, or you do know that it's in a high wildfire area, is check insurability before you make an offer. It's the biggest tip.
Yeah, that's good advice. So should a home buyer have a backup quote handy in case their current agent or broker isn't able to bind a policy prior to closing escrow?
Absolutely. So, more often than not, we get people who have been insured with the same company for 10, 20 years, and they're almost certain that they're going to be able to get a quote from them. And lo and behold, 3 days before they close escrow, or the lender needs proof of coverage and they're not able to supply it because they're not writing it in that area. So always have a backup quote handy, whether it's with a broker, another agent, another direct writer, just as a backup.
And how do you check to confirm if a home is in a flood zone during the home buying process?
So it's pretty simple. Most brokers or agents have access to FEMA mapping to be able to run the location. It's pretty instantaneous. If it's a manual determination, then it can take a couple of days. Clients can ask their agents personally. We do it for Compass just as an added bonus to you guys and to continue our partnership.
So I have a question. Going back to fire hazard, what about homes that have wood shake roofs, wood shingle roofs? Can you get insurance on those now?
Oh, like 99.9% of the carriers will not insure a home with a wood shake roof.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So then what can a home seller do to prepare their home for sale before going onto the market to make sure it's insurable for the new buyer?
So if the seller is going to splurge, then I definitely recommend updates to electrical, plumbing, things of that nature, the roof, especially if you have a wood shake roof, having it completely replaced. But there are some smaller things that you can do, such as trimming branches so they're not touching the roof. If you have wood piles sitting next to the structure, remove them, to place them 20 feet away if you can, as well as fixing any things like handrails. Things of those natures are smaller that you can do that will make a huge difference in insurability.
Okay.
All right. Well, Allie, thank you so much for sharing this valuable information. Allie is with Pro Insurance Solutions, or Proco. What is the best way for people to reach you?
So I'm always on my phone with email. So email would be great. My email is ali.lopez@proco.global. And I'm also available via cell, which I'm happy to provide if anyone needs it.
Okay. Thank you for joining us. I'm Leslie Whitney.
And I'm Pete Sabine. To find out more about our real estate services and expertise, go to our5starteam.com.
Listen to our Real Estate Pro Tips podcast. You can find our podcast at 5starrealestateteam.podbean.com. Hire us to win with us.